Good evening and welcome to tonight's news bulletin brought to you live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. The Sultanate of Oman participates in the 20th edition of Doha Forum and the theme Transformation into New Era being held at the capital city of Qatar, Doha. The Airport Council International discusses in Muscat strengthening efficiency in airports and the aviation sectors. And an agreement is reached to establish 10 humanitarian corridors to evacuate civilians from frontline hotspots in Ukrainian towns and cities. Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. Sultanate of Oman participated in the 20th edition of Doha Forum entitled Transformation into New Era, which is held at the capital city of Qatar, Doha. The forum focuses on a number of pillars, including geopolitical alliances, international relations, and fiscal system, economic development, defense field, cybersecurity, food security, climate change, and sustainability. A number of leaders, ministers, senior officials, and academics from various world countries are participating in this forum. Sultanate of Oman's delegation to the forum was chaired by His Excellency Sayyid Badr bin Hamad Al Busaidi, Foreign Minister. The Airports Council International ACI World Covering Board began its meeting today in Muscat. The new meeting was attended by a number of leading airports chief executive officers from around the world. More details coming up in this particular report.
COVID-19 pandemic has left airports and the aviation sector all over the world in a difficult state. As this sector is breathing a sigh of relief towards recovery, the Airports Council International ACI World Governing Board began its first meeting in Muscat. The meeting, which is chaired by the Sultanate of Oman and attended by leading airport CEOs from around the world, sheds light on future recovery and long-term sustainable growth after the pandemic.
We as an ACI, we are supporting the development of the airports in terms of the decarbonization of the airports. We have for more than 10 years the airport carbon accreditation, and we already accredited more than 500 members around the world. That's why in terms of the process of the decarbonization of the airports, we are working very hard. And the last year, we are the first international organization in aviation that set a net zero carbon emissions target for 2050. That's why we are addressing the issue, we are thinking about the future generations, and we are working hard to reach these objectives.
The meeting discusses finding innovative ways to enhance efficiency in airports and the aviation sector, develop environmental and economically sustainable projects, and address other challenges that directly affect airports and civil aviation sector worldwide.
As the executive committee meets every year, there is always a strategic discussion that is addressed by the airport leaders, including the representatives from the Middle East. The most important outcome have to do with the key challenges ahead of us to recover the industry, to make sure that the passenger can enjoy a more simplified process, as Oman authorities have decided to do some time ago by taking out of consideration testing and quarantine. So we hope that other countries will follow the same protocol that was introduced by Oman.
Over 2 days, the meeting will also discuss and approve the Airports Council International Work Plan and ways to enhance cooperation between airports, international aviation organizations, and various strategic partners around the world. For the Sultanate of Oman Television, Salih bin Khalfan al-Rahbi, Muscat.
International news. Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk said agreement has been reached on the establishment of 10 humanitarian corridors today to evacuate civilians from frontline hotspots in Ukrainian towns and cities. She said civilians trying to leave the besieged southern port of Mariupol would have to leave in private cars as Russian forces were not letting buses through their checkpoints around the southern port city. More Ukrainians are fleeing to the neighboring country, to Poland, as the conflict in Ukraine continues. Charity organizations on the Polish side are giving out free food and water for the refugees. They also prepared toys for children. More than 2.2 million Ukrainian refugees have already entered Poland to flee the month-old war. Meanwhile, leaders of the European Union countries decided to gradually reduce the purchase of natural gas from Russia from this year on at their spring summit yesterday. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said at a press conference after the summit that the decision will help the European Union to gradually get rid of its reliance on Russia in energy. The European Union leaders also agreed on a joint purchase of natural gas, liquefied natural gas, LNG, and hydrogen prior to next winter. To handle energy supply failure, the European Union leaders decided to increase the natural gas reserve to 80% of the maximum volume ahead of next winter, possibly to 90% in the next few years. During the summit, the European Union and the United States also issued a cooperation plan in the field energy agreeing to expand the LNG export from the US to Europe. The plan will help the European Union market to gain an extra of at least 15 billion cubic meters of LNG this year and more in the future, as the European Union estimated. The United States said it will seek tougher United Nations Security Council sanctions after North Korea said it test-fired its biggest intercontinental ballistic missiles to date. U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield said yesterday the U.S. would propose a measure to update and strengthen the Council's sanctions although she didn't specify how, but veto-wielding China and Russia have recently called instead for lifting sanctions on North Korea, citing its economic troubles. Thursday's launch extended a barrage of weapons demonstrations this year that analysts say are aimed at forcing the U.S. to accept the idea of North Korea as a nuclear power and remove sanctions. Meanwhile, the U.S. responded to the launch by imposing new sanctions of its own. Thousands of people fled their homes near a Philippine volcano today after an eruption sent ash and steam hundreds of meters into the sky. The Taal volcano, which sits a picturesque lake south of Manila, exploded with a short-lived burst at 7:22 a.m. local time. It warned further eruptions were possible, which it said could trigger dangerous, fast-moving volcanic flows of gas, ash and debris, as well as tsunami. Residents in 5 fishing and farming settlements around the lake were ordered to leave their homes in the third mass evacuation in as many years around one of the country's most active volcanoes. The initial eruption was followed by nearly continuous ferromagnetic activity that sent plumes stretching 1,500 meters into the air, rising the alert level from 2 to 3 on a scale of 0 to 5. A ferromagnetic eruption happens when molten rocks comes into contact with underground or surface water, likening it to pouring water on a hot pan. You're watching the Sultanate of Oman television, and yet to come in our news bulletin. The Gulf Ceramic Carnival kicks off at Jabrin Castle in the Wilaya of Bala. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Quarantine and food safety system at Hatta border post prevents the entry of diseases to the Sultanate of Oman through controlling the movement of plants and livestock as well as their products. The system, which works according to strict requirements, aims to public safety through ensuring quality of imported and exported foods. A quarantine and food safety system at Hatta board post, manual sampling and lab inspection of food products to ensure that they do not include chemicals. The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Water Resources, represented in a quarantine and food safety department, exert tireless efforts to ensure the quality of foods imported to the Sultanate through border control, which is a key factor to ensure that the live animals and their products, in addition to other food stuff entering Sultanate of Oman, are safe and meeting the specific import conditions. The Ministry of Culture, Sports, Youth organized the conclusion ceremony for clubs competition for cultural creativity in South Sharqiya Governorate. The competition aims to activate institutional work at these clubs and improve national talents and capabilities in various cultural spheres. The activity witnessed wide participation of Omani youth from the governorate. The ceremony comes in recognition of tireless efforts made by youth committees in activating institutional work. 539 Omanis participated in the event, showcasing their talent, skills and creativity in various cultural and youth spheres, including traditional arts, poems, theaters and inshads. Such an event plays a vital role in enhancing youth talents in cultural field. With the participation of fine artists from various Gulf Cooperation Council countries, the activities of Gulf Ceramic Carnival continue in the Wilayah of Bahla in the Dakhiliya Governorate. The festival, organized at Jabreen Castle in the Wilayah, aims to exchange expertise among artists on ceramic industry. The festival, with its various activities and programs, aims to highlight pottery and ceramic industry in the Gulf level. The carnival was organized in partnership with the public and private sectors and highlighted the various Omani ceramic and pottery products. It is worth mentioning that pottery and ceramic industry is considered an integrated part of the cultural heritage of the Sultanate of Oman and other GCC countries. The carnival represents a marketing outlet for the artists to market their products in their Gulf level. Nursing Forum under the title The National Nursing Collective Efforts and COVID-19 Pandemic plus Cyclone Shaheen, Learned Lesson and Future Opportunities, organized by Oman Nursing Association, was held under the patronage of His Excellency Dr. Ahmed bin Mohammed Al-Saidi, Minister of Health. More detail in the following report. Oman Nursing Association, in collaboration with the DG of Health Services Governorate of Muscat and the DG of Nursing Affairs, organized a nursing forum virtually held under the theme Nursing a Shield for the Nation, where national nursing collective efforts and COVID-19 pandemic plus Cyclone Shaheen, learned lessons and future opportunities presented through a number of scientific papers and discussed in one platform under the patronage of His Excellency the Minister of Health.
I'm delighted to be with you today, and to start with, I'm grateful to all the efforts and the hard work and dedication from all our nursing staff in the Sultanate of Oman. It's not only during COVID-19 you proved your efficiency and your caring for the public and everybody in Oman, but also during emergencies such as the cyclones we've had, Shaheen, which unfortunately was very destructive in certain parts of Oman. You are a good example of healthcare providers who apply themselves and sacrifice a lot to look after others.
Thanks to the entire nursing force across the Sultanate healthcare institutions for their bravery work and the professional commitment they have demonstrated and continue to do so. And thanks to the government of His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq for providing all what is required throughout healthcare institutions that has facilitated well the work of nurses and the whole healthcare team to perform their noble profession well in dealing with emergency events the Sultanate experienced, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the impact of confronting Hurricane Shaheen.
So the great work of the nurses during the COVID pandemic throughout the country is highly commended, and let's salute them for it. In today's forum, which is organized by Oman Nursing Associations in collaborations with the Directorate General of Nursing Services of Muscat Governorate, presented many scientific papers, which was reflecting on the best strategies of quality of the nursing care. It also reviewed the pressure and the psychological impact that nurses have been undergone during this period of time.
Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, nurses have sacrificed their comfort and safety to help others. They have continued to rise to the challenge, masking up and putting their own lives in jeopardy to honor the call of duty. They filled the desperate need for caregivers, bravely serving as the final barricade against deadly diseases. They gracefully adapted to changing protocols and solved the problems with innovation and perseverance. COVID-19 alarmed us that there is a need to work on meeting the national nursing shortage. Nearly every part of the country is in dire need of nurses, yet the solutions are obvious. The only way out of this crisis is through a massive investment in our country's nursing education, infrastructure, and personnel.
Nurses, as key members of the COVID-19 patient care team, have been exposed to most challenges, and these all were discussed today on how to deal with those challenges.
I'm happy to be one of the presenters. I presented our experience in RDUC with telehealth during COVID-19 pandemic and Shaheen cyclone. Telehealth have positive impact on patient satisfaction. It reduced cost and it improved patient adherence.
Globally, nurses are discussing ways to address critical global nursing shortage. The report Sustain and Retain in 2022 and Beyond, which was launched on 24th of January, revealed how the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated the already fragile system of the global nursing workforce. With a shortage of 5.9 million nurses and another 4 million nurses expected to retire in the next 10 years. The nursing workforce was already in a difficult position prior to the pandemic. The report described how the COVID effect was leading to increased absences, early retirement, and burnout, which may likely push many other nurses to leave the profession, increasing the shortage to up to 13 million. Abdullah bin Ahmed al-Rubi'i, Sultanate of Oman Television, Muscat. We would like to congratulate nurses for holding this kind of scientific sessions. This is the Sultanate of Oman Television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. The Sultanate of Oman participates in the 20th edition of Doha Forum under the theme Transformation into New Era, being held in the capital city of Qatar, Doha. The Airports Council International discusses in Muscat strengthening efficiency in airports and the aviation sectors. And an agreement is reached to establish 10 humanitarian corridors to evacuate civilians from frontline hotspots in Ukrainian towns and cities. And with that, we do conclude this news bulletin brought to you live from this news center of the Sultanate of Oman Television. From me and the entire news team here in the Sultanate of Oman Television, we thank you for joining us, wish you a pleasant evening, and of course, good night.